So as I was saying, we can take a look at the lobby. It is Kynesie versus Jerimuno, a match a part of the New Year's Classic Mono Civilization Tournament round of 16, going to be a best of 5 series. The winner of this match is actually going to be awaited in the round of 8 quarterfinals by Sampu Kunku and his Iroquois. Sampu Kunku, he's looking to be quite the killer himself. He's actually 6-0 so far in the New Year's Classic, at least in terms of his game record. So he's knocked out both his round of 32 opponent in Breeze Brothers, or Age of Killer, and his round of 16 opponent, Izad Lemay, or I think he played under the Adurdo's Cool nickname in this past tournament. Not past tournament, past round. Or in this tournament, I should say. Getting it a bit tongue-tied. But yeah, Sampu defeated them, both of those players, in a clean 3-0 sweep. So while I expect this match to be a close one that we're about to watch, it's a bit of a case of, you know, out of the pot and into the fire, because the next match for either of these players is not looking so easy. However, Sampu Kunku is a footnote to this story, because we have, spawning in the south of the map, kynesie. He's having defeated Risi 1-2-3-3-0 in the past round. Let me just take a look at the hunts first, so we can see kynesie's got that hunt, 1, 2, 3, and Jerimuno on the north of the map. He's playing Japan, so it's not as big of a deal. 1, 2, 3. 3 reasonable hunts, one you kind of have to go out a little farther on the map for. Yeah, spawned perfectly. We've got one hunt, 1 gold mine, 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 1 gold mine. It seems as though, yeah, there's, okay, 4. I was just making sure that the resources were even for both players, because we wouldn't want to spawn in on an unfair map where something hadn't spawned properly, but it's looking even. Of course, you know, I was looking at the Japan player's base. Japan doesn't really need hunts. But it is still important that it spawns correctly, at least for getting safe shrine locations. So you want to be sure that, you know, it's just, even when it's a civilization that it isn't as impactful for, it still does have some impact. You got to make sure. But as I was saying, making an introduction for Mr. Kynesie himself, the second place title holder of the Autumn Championship 2018. He's a player from France, and unless this is your absolute first time watching this stream, you've probably already heard this man's name. He's infamous for his hyper-defensive and economic playstyle, and one of the very few who can successfully pull it off. It's actually quite unique in Age of Empires 3. You don't see players often going for that super defensive, hyper-wall-oriented gameplay like you might see in Age of Empires 2. It's actually quite common there. In Age of Empires 3, it's not as common, and kynesie, one of the very few who can do it at the very top level. Like I mentioned, he was our second place winner in our last major tournament, and you know, he's executed it so well that he can basically be attributed with the nerfing of a lot of defensive utility tools on the ESOC patch, our community, our small community little fan patch, basically. He's a PR42 Major General at his max. I think currently he's standing at Brigadier status, maybe PR38 or 40 or something of that sort. And he has a freak max JP ELO of 2700. And he's also been sitting at the top of the ESOC ladder for the past few months now. He was only recently dethroned by Mr. I Am Turk. But in addition to that, you know, not only was he our finalist in the last tournament, but he's just somebody who's remarkably consistent across all of the ESOC tournaments that we've hosted. You know, he got to the bronze match in the Winter 2015 Major, as well as the quarterfinal round of 8 in both the Spring and Summer 2015 Majors. And he also got to the round of 8 of the ESOC Grand Tour Playoffs, and not to mention his win with his partner Tit in the 2v2 weekend tournament. But enough singing of the praises of Mr. Kynesie, because we have his opponent to the north of the map, Mr. Jerimuno. He's going to be playing as the Japanese, and certainly not a player to be underestimated himself. He's going to be occupying seed number 18. I think I forgot to mention it, but kynesie, seed number 2, kind of makes sense. Our past finalist is seed number 2, but Jerimuno, seed number 18. A far cry from seed number 2, but like I said, Jerimuno is not somebody to be underestimated. He's a player from Austria, and he's got a PR34 Lieutenant Colonel. He's got a max JP ELO of 2375, and he also sports a formidable team ELO. Let me just take a look at this Explorer, what's been scattered around the map. So we've got a dock actually coming up for kynesie, 2 docks in fact. But as I was saying about Jerimuno, you know, he's actually got a pretty reputable tournament history himself. He's basically the Little League wizard. He's participated in 3 second chance tournaments, and in every single tournament made it to at least the semifinals. It was actually in the Autumn 2017 second chance tournament that he got 2nd place. He was defeated in the finals by Optimus Prime, similar to Mr. Kynesie. Both of these are 2nd place at their best, but that's still like a remarkable feat to achieve that in a tournament on ESOC. He also made it to the 3rd place. He won bronze against Chusik in the most recent Autumn 2018 second chance tournament. So with that said though, main stage success has been something that's kind of eluded Jerimuno thus far. His farthest major tournament finish being in the round of 32, I believe. And that would have been the most recent 2018 Autumn Championship where he faced off against Snow. But it's kind of hard to blame Jerimuno for this because it seems like he has an inclination to play some of the strongest players in the early rounds of our tournaments. Of course, going 2 years back-to-back, he faced Snow in an early round. He played Snow in the round of 32 of the Autumn Championship, and then Snow in the round of 64 of the Autumn 2017 Championship. But the New Year's Classic is a different field, and one in which we may see the tables turn. Jerimuno is going to be playing Japan in this series, of course, as you can tell, the Japanese flag way up top, and Kynesi's Portuguese, but Kynesie himself, being a Portuguese veteran, might not actually be so favored for him. You know, while he does have the more star-studded tournament history lineup, historically, Portuguese versus Japan is actually one of Portuguese's worst matchups, and while on the ESOC patch, you know, Portuguese has actually received kind of a salient early game buff in that their villagers have a reduced food cost, now costing 85 food instead of 100 food. It's kind of still a matchup that Portuguese struggles in, and despite Kynesie being so powerful, I think we might see a close series here between these two players, and I do hope that they deliver for me. But to, you know, this long-winded rant, I didn't talk about much of what was going on in the game so far, but we did see, as I mentioned earlier, a big dock boom actually coming out for Kynesie. So even on Cascade range, which isn't actually a super heavy water map, you see Kynesie going for his very classic, extremely defensive economic playstyle. He's already got 12 fishing boats, and I actually doubt that he'll make any more. It seems like 6 fishing boats is kind of the right spot, the right amount of boats to make on each side. They do have a limited number of fish. There are no whales for permanent resource gathering, so there's only like maybe 5,000 food worth of fish in each little lake. So that's 10,000 food. 6 fishing boats, that costs 12 times 70, something like 800 resources. 800 wood, that is. That's plenty of resources with which to invest. You don't really need more than that, because eventually all of that 10,000 food, excuse me, is going to be gathered up. But we're actually seeing Jerimuno go for a very aggressive build order at the start here. Let's see how many villagers were picked off. I know I heard the cries of one of them die right there. But we've only seen 2 villagers from Kynesie being picked off, and by Town Center Fire, 3 Ashigaru and 1 Shinobi Numanu, I believe. Numanu, yes, has perished. So an aggressive build order, in fact, starting with a stable, likely. So we see both a barracks and a stable out for Jerimuno. 2 Vil, 600 wood, 5 Ashi. That's a pretty aggressive build order. Of course, starting 600 wood isn't necessarily aggressive. Some players like to start with a unit shipment as Japan when they go for these aggressive build orders. I don't think that's great. It's kind of hard to execute on, especially against Portuguese, which has 2 town centers, double the potential for town center fire damage, I suppose. Next shipment for Jerimuno going to be 600 coin, but he can see that Kynesie is actually already aged up to the Fortress Age. A safe town center being placed in the back by these berry bushes. Of course, only 2 villagers lost. I don't think Kynesie is actually worse for wear at this point. Of course, he does have most of his villagers penned up in his town center right now, not gathering, but he does have these 12 fishing boats gathering plenty of food for him. So he's already got the barracks down. This transition into the Fortress Age isn't actually going to be that difficult for him. And looking at the economic unit population, we can see that Kynesie is ahead very early in the match. Jerimuno actually following up kynesie to age 3 himself. Going to be placing 8 villagers on the Wonder, expediting his age up to get it get aged up as soon as possible. But he's actually behind on economy, and that's not something you usually see with Japan at this point in the game. Kynesie seems mostly stabilized. It seems like this pressure from the Japanese players getting picked off real quick. All of these Ashigaru's dead, and now there's only two Shinobis, and 1 damaged Explorer for the Japanese player up top. So this aggression, it doesn't seem like it accomplished very much for for Jerimuno. Of course, he did idle kynesie for a very long amount of time, and he killed 2 villagers, but that isn't the most amount of damage, considering at all times, kynesie had those 12 fishing boats that I mentioned gathering, working up for him, and you can see right on his 3 town center boom. Yeah, he's not afraid at all. He's booming as hard as possible, as hard as Portuguese possibly can. He sent 5 goons as kind of a safety shipment in age 3, his first shipment in the fortress age, and even pushing out a little bit with 4 Cazadores. Let's see, what are his military units out on the field at the moment? Of course, he he sent 5 goons from the home city, sending 1,000 coin now. I'm kind of interested. I'd like to see him gather more. Oh my! You know, I was gonna say I'd like to see kynesie start to mix in more production facilities, but looking at his food count, I think with this 1,000 coin shipment, these 4 Cazadores and 5 Dragoons sent from the home city are probably going to be the only units he makes in the Fortress Age. He's going to go for a direct, fast industrial strategy. And, I mean, we can see Jerimuno's military at 6 Yumi, 10 Ashigaru, 2 Flaming Arrows. And looking at his map position around the map, he's not in a very aggressive stance with which to pressure kynesie. Frankly, I'm not even aware. I don't even know if Jerimuno is aware that kynesie is on the water. Of course, one can assume, and maybe earlier in the games I probably didn't catch it, but maybe his one of his explorers was able to scout the dock. But kynesie hid them pretty well. Regardless, Jerimuno isn't putting on a lot of pressure at this point, and kynesie is already on the way up to the industrial age. And I'm actually kind of interested to know what kind of units he's going to be making there. Of course, he does still have this 1 barracks, but he doesn't have many production facilities outside of that. He's gathering principally food at the moment, which is going to be great for his 3 town center boom, but not very good for producing units outside of that, considering he only has this 1 barracks. And once he gets up to the industrial age, he's going to want to be upgrading his units, assumedly. Rather, maybe kynesie's going to send something like a factory or the 2 heavy cannons. I'm not quite sure. Of course, I know kynesie probably going to want to go for the more economic style of shipments with these factories, but I suppose maybe his first, or what I would expect, he might be kind of forced into is these 2 heavy cannons, considering his very gaunt defense, only having 3 town centers, not even colonial militia, and 7 Cazadores and 4 Dragoons. It doesn't seem like really kind of what you want going up to the industrial age, and with which to hold very powerful Japanese age 3 units. But regardless, he's up very early, 12 minutes and 30 seconds to the industrial age. A full wall going up, but it's actually going to get caught, and he's going to lose another villager. Nice snipe by Jerimuno. You see some units, Cazadores, poking out on these Ashigarus. These Ashigarus going deep into the base of kynesie. I don't really like this that much. These Ashigarus are going to get picked off real quick, and it's like, what are these Ashigarus really accomplishing? We've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 getting picked off for what? I don't think we saw... Oh, we saw 1 villager die, actually, and we're going to see 2 Dragoons getting picked off, but still these Ashigaru, losing a bunch of them for basically free. We saw 1 villager die, 2 Dragoons get damaged, but if that's all the damage your units were accomplishing, I don't think that was a very good trade. Minutemen coming out for kynesie, gonna snipe, or at least not snipe, but put a bunch of damage on these flaming arrows, taking down 1. These are the siege unit for the Japanese player. They were shipped, but not getting a lot of efficiency. They got some damage on a town center, and I think they got 1 shot off on Dragoons, but besides that, they were just fodder for these Minutemen. Oof. And a quick resign for Jerimuno here, realizing kynesie is extremely safe in this position. 3 town centers, losing a bunch of units for free. That was a quick GG, and not kind of what I wanted to see. As I said, this was a matchup that favors Japan a lot, but Cascade range kind of isn't the best map for Japan. It's not a map they can really boom on. In fact, we saw I can't look at the shipments anymore, but Jerimuno actually forewent Japan's favorite Age 1 shipment, which is Heavenly Kami. He went for 2 villagers, which is a more a shipment that you do more on low resource maps like Cascade Range. So Japan not really having the option to boom. Kynesie going up, getting his 4 town centers up, very safe. Very well played from Kynesie, very polished, really nice build order with these these 12 fishing boats. At no point was he ever really under a lot of pressure, even though Jerimuno tried his best to do an aggressive build order. Really refined from Kynesie. But I don't think this is the end of the end of the line for Jerimuno, even though that was a pretty crushing defeat for him in Game 1. That was a pretty favorable map for the Portuguese player, to be frank. The next map is actually going to be Florida, probably another one that Kynesie is very happy to be playing on. But Florida is actually something that favors Japan quite a bit more as well. You know, there's so many hunts on this map, it actually makes the Japanese boom very, very powerful. And while we didn't see Japan quite able to match the Portuguese boom on Cascade Range, I think it's going to be something much more in the favor of Japan here. And of course, I hope Jerimuno, he is a player prone to tilt. In his past tournament experiences, I know in the finals against Optimus Prime of the autumn 2017, it was a 5-0 series. He wasn't very happy with how it was going. There are a lot of auxiliary factors to that kind of tilt that I mentioned, but only dropping 1 game here. It's not the end of the world, and certainly I believe this series could go either way. I just hope Jerimuno kind of has the mental fortitude with which to persevere and realize that this is just 1 game that he lost, and it's not the end of the series. But we didn't see Kynesie slacking either, which is something you would kind of hope for as the underdog in this fight. Jerimuno ready. We're going to be launching into Game 2, Best of 5 series, New Year's Classic, round of 16. Match between famed, infamous, loved, hated Kynesie and undercard Jerimuno. Brigadier versus Lieutenant Colonel. The map is Florida. It's got waters, it's got livestock, trading posts, and native posts. It's a map that has everything on it. And we're going to see Jerimuno, the Japanese player in this series. It is a mono-civilization tournament, so each player only allowed to play 1 civilization. Jerimuno as his champion civilization, picking Japan. He's going to be playing in the color red to the north of the map. And Kynesie playing as the Portuguese, spawning in the color blue to the south. Let's just take a look at the herds for both players. You got very coy treasure, 1 settler treasure. It's going to be quite hard to take, but maybe at some point in the game Kynesie will go for that. Tucked very safely in the back for him. 1, 2, 3 herdable hunts, and a nice one to extend towards. And for the Japanese player, not as relevant because, like I said, in the first game, Japan doesn't really utilize hunts, at least for gathering directly with their villagers. It's more something for their shrines. Kind of comes a little bit later in their boom. But hunts look good for both players. We've got 1 mine, 3 mines outwards, 3 mines outwards. This one's a bit more exposed for Kynesie, but it still spawns 1 in the back, and I guess this one's in the back, yeah. So, looking really good for both players. And let's look at the food treasures. Both choosing to go for their nearby in-base treasures. You usually start with 1 in Age of Empires 3. It's just a small, like 30 coin, 40 food, something like that. Both players went for it. Kynesie going more towards the north of the map. Ooh, gunning towards this 80 wood treasure. I wonder if he's going to go for that directly. Ah, that's actually guarded by a pirate and a carry, but I've actually never seen this type of treasure spawn, but crack-shotting that pirate, it has like 600 hit points or something ridiculous. Of course, European explorers get a crack shot they can use every 60 seconds towards treasure guardians. This carry blow gunner not having much hand attack. It does have a bunch of hit points and a very strong range attack, but Kynesie fighting it in melee mode and picking up a very easy 80 wood treasure. To the north, ooh, what's this? This looks like 120 coin. Yeah, 120 coin for Jerimuno, the Japanese player. Taking down 1 of the Jaguars very nicely. The carry outlaw blowgunner out of range of these Japanese explorers, not getting any damage. Gonna get 60 damage worth of on these explorers right now, but being forced back. Maybe Jerimuno has the stun ability, that these Japanese monks have. But either way, oh, this is coy. I don't really understand the logic behind that, Mr. Blowgunner. All the way out of range. Okay, so it didn't really work out for him, but he's going to go in melee mode, like I said with the treasure that Kynesie was taking, that Blowgunner not having a lot in the way of melee damage, and it's going to be very easy for Jerimuno to take this 120 coin treasure. Not the most influential for Japan, because they prefer to gather get up those wood treasures, which will benefit their shrine boom towards the transition to colonial age. Another 75 wood for Kynesie. That's ridiculous, and we can see one sheep scouting the coastline for Kynesie. That's going to make his macro going into what I assume is an aquatic build order coming out from him soon. Just look, 200 wood sitting in bank for Kynesie going up to age 3. He can just send a villager out, and we already see it coming coming for him right there. Dock foundation, extremely easy. Like, oh my gosh, this boom is just going to be ridiculous for him. Jerimuno, of course, 120 coin and 100 XP, not bad treasures in their own right, but not as directly impactful as the treasures Kynesie was able to pick up. This dock boom, you know, I really hope to see some aquatic gameplay out of Jerimuno too, some good water contention, but it's going to be rough for him. I don't think he can fully commit to a naval game plan against Kynesie. I'd like to see him do something early, but he's going to be actually up to the colonial age pretty much on time with the Portuguese player, at least not too far behind. He did queue up that that wonder very early. Normally Japan kind of queues it up between 3 minutes and 15 seconds and 3 minutes and 30 seconds. But to me it seems like he was able to get that up at around 2 minutes 55 seconds. So he's going to be up to the colonial age much sooner than a regular Japanese build order. But yeah, so that's good for Jerimuno, because if you were to send something like 2 caravels or 2 funes first in the colonial age, not that that's necessarily what he'll go for, and not that that's necessarily the best build order, it would just fare a lot better for him because he aged up so much sooner. I'm also interested to see what Kynesie's first shipment is going to be. Likely it's 700 wood, which is of course going to just streamline that water boom of his with these 2 docks now. Maybe he'll put up a 3rd even, like we saw. Oh, we didn't see it. 3 docks in Cascade range. It was only 2 docks, but 2 docks is pretty greedy even on Cascade range. Jerimuno, let's look at the shipments. I kind of neglected that. Heavenly Kami, very good booming card for Jerimuno. Going to incline us to believe that he's going to go for a heavy shrine boom. So his next shipment is what's going to be more, primarily more what I'm looking out for from him. Schooners is Kynesie's first card, of course. Going for that dock boom. Not something unexpected from the Portuguese player here. A WTF. I wonder what that was in regards to. And the town center for Kynesie going up in the back. Just going to secure this hunt and this hunt. It's not going to guard the coast. I suppose that's something he doesn't feel like he really needs to do, considering just the power of these 2 or 3 docks now. And this advanced dock shipment, which is going to, if he sends it, is going to definitely boost the... what the advanced dock card does is it boosts the attack of docks when you have fishing boats garrisoned in them. Of course, once you have a fishing boats garrisoned in a dock, they have an anti-warship attack, and with the advanced dock card, that gets buffed up even more. And with the Team Coastal Defensives, there's a multiplier against warships that is granted to the docks, or maybe it's not the docks, but at least to the towers buildings. That should include the docks. It's just 2 very strong cards for the naval defense of the Portuguese player. He's got both of them in deck, so should Jerimuno try to go for, like I mentioned, an aquatic contention, it's still really difficult to make something of it just because of those shipments from the Portuguese player. But instead we see a double back-to-back for villagers. Very economic from the Japanese player. In fact, no Portuguese consulate. We do see the Portuguese consulate, but no 3 fishing boats. Which is one of the technologies from the Portuguese consulate that they can get early in age 2. Rendering plant coming out for Kynesie, again doubling down on this aquatic build order. In fact, having more fishing boats on the field than he does villagers. A short wall coming out on the front of Kynesie's base. Again, more defensive posturing. Kynesie's bread and butter. Jerimuno sitting at 140 shrine population. That's actually not terribly high for the Japanese player. Gonna get a TP. And I think I'm not sure if Jerimuno is actually going to go for a 600 coin next, or if he's just going to distribute his villagers to you know, just gather the resources to go to age 3. But that certainly seems like something he's going for, considering we don't actually see a military production facility out for him. Kynesie, let's see if he even has a military production facility of his own, and it seems like the answer is no. An affirmative no. Kynesie probably feeling pretty safe here. I don't know if he necessarily scouted that Jerimuno wasn't going to go for an aggro build order this game, but he can probably kind of just intuit it, kind of sense that this is Florida, and Jerimuno's probably not going to risk going for an aggressive build order on this map, which is much, much, much more lenient to the economic playstyles. But just looking at this recalculated economic unit population, Kynesie full well ahead, 51 villagers, and no signs of letting up on that lead. The first one to age up is Kynesie. Yumi attack being the 4th shipment for the Japanese player. Not something you see every day. Like I said, Jerimuno actually going to distribute his villagers in order to gather the resources to age up. Not sending something like 600 coin, which is usually used by players to expedite that age up, get them up sooner. Jerimuno just going for something much more late game oriented rather than, you know, just looking for speed, speed, speed. And sending Yumi attack very preemptively. No Yumis on the map, of course, but we will see something, I guess, some early Yumis in the Fortress Age coming out for him. Doing up the age up now. Again, more fishing boats than even villagers for the Portuguese player. To me, that's just insane, but considering Kynesie, what else could I have expected? But this boom is sick for him. 57 villagers at the not even 9-minute mark. Up to age 3 safely. Going to put one town center on the coast. That's going to defend this coastline. Not that it's a very critical position, but it also secures this hunt and a nice wood line for him. We actually see the Carib settlement going for the Japanese player, and let me look at the text here. Yeah, you can see the Carib Cascade beer, 250 food, 250 coin. That buffs archers' attack damage by 10%. Something that's going to benefit those Yumi archers by quite a bit, but it is an expensive technology considering he had to build the 200 wood trading post and then 500 more resources in order to get it. And it also does train or research pretty slowly. I believe it takes 60 seconds. So how much use that's going to be for Jerimuno in early age 3, I'd say it's quite limited, but we see 6 Yumis coming out as the age up bonus from the Golden Pavilion, the standard Fortress age up for Japan. 1 barracks, not 2. I'd like to see 2. He's definitely going to need that production if he wants to be able to pressure Kynesie efficiently. But Kynesie, no pressure received yet. He is already up to the industrial age, or queuing up, that is. No pressure in sight. And he has a 70 villager boom going on at the moment. Completely uncontested water. These fishing boats spread out beautifully along the coast. That's going to deplete all the resources very evenly, make this macro management for him on the sea just so fluid and easy going into the later stages of the match, where micromanagement rather than macro management is going to become more pressing. Jerimuno coming in with his first batch of Yumi archers, but again, you know, like we saw in game 1, to what effect? You know, I said those Ashigarus that were going in under that TC, you know, cavalcade of Kynesie, it wasn't able to accomplish much, and he lost a lot in the process. But these Yumi's archers, they have higher range, so they'll be able to pressure the villagers of Kynesie from a farther range. But a defensive wall coming up. Beautiful work. And Kynesie is already up to the industrial age. He might lose 3 villagers, 5 villagers even, if Jerimuno is able to scout it, but that's just a drop in the bucket of Kynesie's full boom. Not to mention Kynesie, having gone up to the industrial age, now opens himself up to the possibility of sending factories, which are basically like 9 villager shipments, but even safer because they're a 5,000 hit point building once constructed. Oof, even economic theory, Kynesie not feeling pressured at all. Not even going for something like 2 organ guns or 1 fort. He is just going on the full greed plan. Ten Yamabushi, nice, sieging down a Seminole settlement for the Portuguese player. I'm not sure what techs are in there, but it's not too important right now considering it was sieged down. Kynesie now sending his Yumi archers towards this forward town center from the Portuguese player. Might be able to siege it down before it's actually fully constructed. That would be a nice pickup, but again, I don't think Kynesie particularly cares for that loss, considering, ooh, 2 organ guns. Look at that. 3 Yumi down, 2 damaged. Start to siege down a shrine. So the town center did go down, but that's not the biggest loss for the Portuguese. They still do have 3 town centers, and Kynesie is already ahead in economy. So it's not like losing the 4th town center was a big loss for him. We do see 2 docks coming out for Jerimuno, but they are scouted by Kynesie's supreme line of sight. Ooh, a frigate actually coming out for a Jerimuno. That's a heavy investment. 500 wood, 500 coin. Gonna take out 140 wood worth of fishing boats. That's pretty nice. Kynesie, oh my, never mind. Kynesie, 2 frigates, sending 1 frigate, building one of his own. That's actually going to completely shut down this 1 frigate of Jerimuno, unless he has another frigate on the way from the home city. He does have this 400 wood, 400 coin armor plating upgrade going up for his warship, but 2 frigates versus 1, essentially a frigate. This is not going to bode well for him, and if this frigate of his own dies, oh my, look at this. 2, I forget the name of it, I think they're called Arakabunes. They're basically galleons for the Japanese player. 2 being shipped. But look at this, so many upgrades for the Portuguese player on his frigates. We do see Jerimuno trying to do some fancy micro with his frigate. Ooh, another one coming out. Oh my god, dude, I just love naval warfare. I can't even describe all of the intricacies of what's going on, but basically, oh, never mind. Guess it's not too important. Well, that was a beautiful naval battle. I wish I could see the score. It was actually 227 to Jerimuno and 300 to Kynesie. So, like I said, you know, just that insane boom. No early contention from Jerimuno on the water. Kynesie was able to do whatever he wanted. In fact, having got up that Seminole post, he was able to start building canoes. Once you build a native post, you're always able to build canoes even if you lose it. And that was probably mainly what he was going for. Canoes are very powerful to supplement your naval prowess on the water. And he wasn't even really going for the units or the techs, but Kynesie so far ahead in terms of economy and technology, and I didn't even look at it. But probably I should look at the military graphs and see what was going on land as I looked at that beautiful naval fight. And we can see to 34 units, down to 13. Jerimuno lost 20 land units. Kynesie losing nothing. And, you know, what we saw in the water, fully upgraded frigates, probably with, improved warships too. So not only did Kynesie get like 1,200 resources worth of naval upgrades from the dock, but he also sent his home city card that buffed these frigates even further, and this meek in comparison. Japanese contention of the water was just going to be trounced so easily, and then the Japanese player would be so far behind. And Jerimuno, again, another 14-minute loss. I can't really blame him, but there's not too much to dwell on. I suppose the players are kind of waiting for me now. So we'll go out pretty fast. Didn't get a good look at the graphs, but that's alright. I guess there was some discussion going on between the players. Flaming suck. Kynesie just not taking any L's. The execution, it's seemingly immaculate right now. Right. And we'll be launching into Game 3 of a best-of-5 series between Kynesie and Jerimuno. I'm not sure if I updated the score last game, but we are actually 2-0 up. Kynesie match point. Should he win this game, he wins the entire series and moves on to the round of 8 quarterfinals versus Sampu Konku's Iroquois. This is part of the New Year's Classic. It's a mono civilization tournament. And of course, the map is going to be Klondike. Again, a far cry from the previous maps that we've seen. We saw Cascade Range in the first map, in the first game as the first map, and that was a no trade post map. And then we saw Florida, which kind of has everything, but it's principally a water map. We saw a 40 fishing boat boom for the Portuguese player. Klondike, on the other hand, has 5 trading posts. It's very thin. It's a very thin map, and the gameplay is kind of not linear in terms of metaphorically, but rather practically. You know, you're just fighting along this one strip, beautiful Klondike River, map designed by Garya, situated in the center of it. But in terms of who this favors, you know, I wish I could say Japan, but considering Portuguese are actually pretty happy to do an ATP, or Advanced Trading Post build order. It's a card that reduces the cost of trading posts, and it greatly streamlines the ability to build them in the transition to Colonial Age and get the Stagecoach upgrade. So we'll have to see what Jerimuno does. The card kind of is on him. But yeah, let's look at the map a little bit first. 2 hunts, easy. Hunt, 2 hunts. 2 hunts for both players, and the mines, of course. Looking good. That looks good. Let's switch on the Fog of War. Klondike is not a map that has many big treasures. Of course, you can see the map palette is kind of designed after Yukon. Even it's kind of reminiscent of Yukon. It's got like a lot of trade posts, and it's got like this back area, you know. But there's nothing fancy besides this beautiful relic. Beautiful. It's like a Klondike version of what's it called? Stonehenge? Beautiful. Age of Empires is a beautiful game. But there are no big treasures with which to influence the game. You know, swingy treasures like 150 coin, 100 wood, 150 food. Those are treasures you kind of see on Hudson Bay, for example, but not something you see on Klondike. And so, while Japan, they have 2 explorers, they're able to pick up a lot of these treasures pretty soon. They're not too impactful overall, and considering the map is kind of favorable for the Portuguese player, with that Advanced Trading Post card. No deck selected for Kynesie yet. There we go. ATP is in the deck, and that's probably going to be his first shipment. Of course, we're not going to see him build any trading posts right now, just distributing to age up to the Colonial Age. All villagers on food. There was a market. I wonder... He did get the Hunting Dogs upgrade. Kynesie, that is. And Jerimuno, we don't actually see a consulate out for him. So what I'm suppositioning here is that he's going to go for a very aggressive build order. Whew! Eat. Almost ready to queue up. Probably going to go with the Torii Gate. Won't be able to tell until quite later, but that is a very early age up for the Japanese player. 300 wood first shipment. Aggressive build order is what we're going to expect out of the Japanese player. And so Kynesie is going to be, well, all in the defense, but I don't think he's unaccustomed to that play style. Jerimuno, on the other hand, going to go for something aggressive. You know, Japan, they usually like to go for their economic build orders, but recently in the metagame, we've been seeing them go a lot for these aggressive style build orders. It happened a lot on Gran Chaco, which was a map in the Autumn Championship. Notably, players like I Am Turk, I know they did that a lot. And Jerimuno, it seems like he's going to be doing something similar here. In fact, we see a forward villager. I wonder what that's going to accomplish. I don't think he's aging up with the Toshogu Shrine. The Torii Gates is going to grant him 1 samurai and 1 building rickshaw, or military building rickshaw, which allows him to build a 200 wood stable or barracks. Oh, wow. This is interesting. It seems like a proxy consulate for the Japanese player, aging up very quickly. Maybe this is the Toshogu Shrine. Again, we can't quite tell yet. Actually, yeah, it's the Toshogu Shrine. So this is going to be a consulate rush. Even more unstandard coming out for the Japanese build order. For the Japanese player. And I do really like this. You know, we saw Jerimuno kind of play standard in the first games where he went with a more aggressive build order on the Cascade range, but still something economic, oriented towards Fortress Age or the late game. We saw that on Cascade range, and then we also saw a full boom and then Fortress Age play from the Japanese player on Game 2 on Florida. And both of that didn't work out for him. So he's going for something completely non-standard, something that Kynesie hasn't scouted, something that he's not going to expect. And I think this is just what he needs. Now, it's going to come down a lot to his execution of this strategy in terms of whether or not it's going to be successful. But the Japanese player did get up to the Fortress Age, or excuse me, Colonial Age, faster than the Portuguese player, something very uncommon. And I think with that, he's going to queue up some Yamabushi, very high siege units. Basically, they're like speedy pikemans for the Japanese. He's going to queue that up, try to scout out this second town center location for the Portuguese player and siege that down before it's able to go up for the Portuguese player. First shipment, Daimyo Mototada. And Shrines on Coin, Japanese player. Let me take a look at his deck. He does not have the 11 Sohai shipment. So the 11 Sohai is a 500 coin shipment. It grants 11 Sohai, like I mentioned. Those are, again, like I mentioned, like the Yamabushi. They're speedy pikemans. And of course, sometimes that's used with a Daimyo Mototada rush, but this isn't quite the correct build order. That build order actually involves aging up with the Shogunate. Grants 400 XP, if I'm not mistaken. But Jerimuno actually not scouting it. I mean, he did scout out this this forward town center position from the Portuguese player, but not opting towards sending his early game Yamabushi towards that position. So instead, just going to siege down the shrine, maybe the market, and keep these vills penned up in the TC. ATP, 700 wood, standard for the Portuguese player. I wonder if he's going to... Ooh, 8 Expomen, nice catch. Going to do really well against these Ashigaru. But there's also Daimyo Mototada, which is a cavalry unit, 31 attack. It's going to 4-hit KO these crossbowmen. And while there's some DPS going down from the Ashigarus in the back, these 8 Expomen are actually going to get cleaned up in a 5 Ashigaru shipment popping out at the Daimyo. Really nice. That's going to almost completely deny that shipment from kynesie being effective. I think there was 8 Expomen killed, maybe 2, 3 Ashigaru. Of course, the rest were cleaned up by the town center, but the town center also being focus fired on Daimyo Mototada. He's got 650 hit points and 30 range resistance. He's not concerned at all. No colonial militia, which is kind of what I was expecting from the Portuguese player, but look at the score here. 50 to kynesie, 65 to Jerimuno, and Jerimuno in the back of this rush is even ahead in terms of economy. This town center, we do see one villager popping out. I'm not going to look at the tabs, there's just not enough time. Whether or not Jerimuno has villagers in queue, he does have the resources to do so, but what's he going to do to hold this rush? This town center is almost fully down. Oh my. See, this is the thing with Jerimuno. He is kind of prone to tilt. You know, probably what happened is Jerimuno took a look at the 5 trading posts from kynesie. Maybe he also saw that there was Stagecoach upgraded, and he saw that Colonial Militia had just arrived for the Portuguese player. But this is just the thing about tilt. I don't think you should ever resign too early. In those first 2 games from Jerimuno, the first 2 games between kynesie and Jerimuno on Cascade Range in Florida, while it was a sensible resign in those first, those matches only lasted 14 minutes. It was a sensible resign from Jerimuno. Still, I felt like it was too early, and that kind of put him in this frame of mind where he was just resigning whenever he felt he had lost, not when he had actually lost. And in this game, we saw a town center almost going down for the Portuguese player, and while you know, the Portuguese player does have this back town center with which to evacuate to, considering Jerimuno had some reinforcing Ashigaru in the back of it, as well as Daimyo Mototada, maybe he died, maybe that was why he resigned. I guess maybe that's why he resigned. I may not have noticed it, but Daimyo Mototada probably died. Anyway, even still with these Yamabushi, they outspeed the villagers. He would have been able to take down, or not take down, all of the 10 villagers, or however many were garrisoned inside this town center, but Jerimuno wasn't in a terrible position. And considering he could, you know, kind of contain this weirdly positioned town center from the Portuguese player, and, you know, see some shrines in the back of it, he had an economic lead. I'm really saddened to see Jerimuno resign, especially when he had a 12-score lead at this point in the game, just because, you know, he got the trade posts up. It wasn't uncontested. He got the trade posts up. He's always going to be able to execute his game plan, kynesie, that is. Jerimuno was able to do some pretty, just that was some good damage. The town center was going to go down. A lot of villagers were going to be lost. Kynesie was not ahead in terms of villagers. He was out-villagered, and as well, Jerimuno had some shrines which are providing a little bit of coin production for him. You know, I'm really saddened to see Jerimuno go out this early. We could have seen a 3-0 series, or not 3-0, but 3-1 series at the very least. At the end of the day, you know, I don't know what to say. But that is going to conclude this series, and you do have to give a congratulations to kynesie. He played very, very well in those first 2 games, and even in this game 3, I'm very sure that he's a fighter, and he wouldn't resign until the last drop of blood had been shed. But that is going to see kynesie move on to the round of 8 quarterfinals, Portuguese versus Sampu Kanku's Iroquois.